Alright, first video of the Walker repairs we're going to be doing here. Going to have a video coming up soon on replacing a blower. Don't really need to do a video on replacing the chute on the deck, but this video is replacing a hydro. In particular, it's going to be this one here, which is the right hand side hydro. So we'll keep it nice and simple, show you step by step. And we need to start underneath the machine. And we need to remove this arm right here. You can see there's a bolt right here. I believe it's a 9/16. Going to go ahead and remove that. And we could take a little pry bar and just knock this arm right off the shaft to release it. Okay, I would say it's a 9/16. Right now I'm using a 14 millimeter, which is just a little bit tight. But 14 millimeter is just a hair smaller than 9/16, so that's probably why. I should have remembered the majority of the nuts and bolts, if not all, well, besides the motor, I guess, are American sizes, SAE sizes, not metric on the Walker Mower. All right. Okay, that's just a little bit of pressure and that popped right off. That's all we need to do from down below. All right, I'm going to remove these zip ties that are holding our cables in place just to get them out of the way. Probably don't necessarily have to do this to work around them, but it's just as easy to put some new fresh ones on, and I'm going to be replacing this blower in the next video, so I kind of need to get this out of the way anyway. So I'll just move the throttle cable up out of the way. We're going to go ahead and remove this plastic fan. What I'm using here is an oil filter wrench that I'm going to position around this pulley just to hold it. I use this for a lot of reasons other than just oil filters. It's a nice big adjustable pair of pliers. Now I'm using a Torx T20, but I believe this is an Allen, not a Torx, but sometimes, you know, you can get away with using a Torx and some Allens if you don't have to put too much pressure and risk stripping it out. But yeah, this is actually an Allen that this Torx fits nicely into. Just going to go ahead and remove that. This pops right off, just a little plastic fan. I'm going to remove this belt out of the way. So we have that loose. I'm going to remove the spring off this arm. Take that off out of the way. Get back over this side. You can see this spring is just hanging here. This clips on this arm. We're going to take that right out of the way. Flip that up. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is remove this jack shaft assembly, which is bolted on right here and here. The 9/16 nut. Got another zip tie to cut. Okay, that's free now. I'm going to go down to the bottom 9/16 nut. I am switching sides kind of often here, trying to give you the best look at what I'm doing. But right down here, this is kind of a tight area, so a ratchet wrench is helpful. Okay, there we go. There's those two. You can see those are open, so we can now remove the two studs or bolts. Save some time, I'm going to use a power wrench on that. All right, to give myself a little bit more room, let me get down to what we're talking about here. Should be able to see it from down in there. That nut is right here, that bolt, and it looks like it's just going to rub getting by here. We might have to take this front cover off, but I'm going to remove this shield right here, which is only 3 bolts, 3 7/16, just to give me a little more room to get in there and see if I can't get a straight shot with a 1/4 inch. That's pretty much the only difficult bolt to deal with. Okay, that's that. All right, I think I'm going to remove this front cover. It's only a few bolts, no big deal. Makes it easier. And these are 1/2 inch. All right, so I'm gonna sneak this right down and see how tight that is and what I'm having to do. Okay, there's that one. Now we can remove this whole jack shaft assembly right out of the way. So that's out of the way now. Now we need to remove, next up, is this idler pulley right here. It's a bolt and a nut on this side, 9/16. It's got to hold one side and loosen the other. All right, now we just got these two remaining bolts right on the left-hand side. Okay, you'll notice these two bolts aren't threaded the whole way through. And the ones on that side that hold the jack shaft assembly are threaded the whole way. And now we could just take it right out. And there you have it, old and new. Take note that we have oil in here for the gearbox. All right, so everything's ready to go on this, except for the gear on one side and the pulley on the other. So let's go ahead and remove this pulley. I'm using that same T25 that I used on the fan. I don't know if I said T20 earlier or T25, but it's T25 that fits in here perfectly. You're supposed to use an Allen key, but this, where it's fitting in really tight, I'm comfortable with using that. It's whatever you got, right? So this puppy should pull right off fairly easily. Just a little bit of prying. Okay. Got this key. Little key right there. We'll tap this very tightly As it is, I made a little bit of a ding in that keyway, which is just enough to stop that pulley from going on. Just trying to tap that back down so it doesn't get hung up. Now we're just lightly tapping here. Doesn't take much pressure. Just make sure the key isn't popping out, and it's not. Right out flush, just where the other one was. And we'll tighten up our set screws. Okay. Now, similar situation on the other side. This gear. Got a little circlip. Now I got to find out where that flew to. Okay. Found the circlip that went flying. That gear just comes right off nice and easy. Same thing, keyway. Okay, once you get it out, if you did a little damage to it, you want to go ahead and smooth that damage down. Because if it's anything bigger, anything sticking out, it's going to get caught up. So we got to smooth that down. Just put it in a vise or okay, so there she is, ready to go back in. Just going to pull this little part off at the end. Actually, we'll pull that off now. Let's go ahead and install it. Now you saw the crazy Tetris move I had to pull to get it out. To do the same thing to put it in. One other thing I want to make note on is right here, the bottom control shaft does not have a key in it. So just like the other one, we got to pull this key out. And we might want to put that back on before we put the new hydro in, just because it's a little easier to get to now. All right, then installation is just the reverse. Just going to work backwards. Just running the bolts in with this. I'm not going to tighten them up. You always like to tighten the bolts up by hand so you can get a really good feel for it. Now, as I said, I'm going to do a video on taking this blower out and replacing that as well. I'd have a little bit more room and just kind of maneuverability if I took the blower out right now, but I'm actually going to put this back together to working state. So the video is in its entirety of replacing the blower, and the way that if you were to take that GHS blower out, the way you would want to do it and what you'd have to remove or not remove to be able to get it out. Again, these bolts are the fully threaded ones. All right, we could see those two bolts coming out right here and right here. Ready to put the nuts on. Like I said, working on these mowers is pretty simple. There are a couple of areas that are a little tight to get to. You got to kind of maneuver things a little bit to get around things, but there's nothing that's ridiculously impossible, so I think it's more about knowing what has to come off to get to what. And I think if anything, that's this video will be more of a help in that department, because you can see what had to be removed or not had to be removed to be able to get this out. Because if you're just starting from the beginning and just looking at it, not knowing, it would be a whole different story. Now, you tighten all four of these bolts up, okay? And then you tighten these two nuts at the end, because these are actually threaded and bolt into the body housing, all four of them, which actually holds the hydro on without these nuts. The only thing these nuts right here are for is to hold this bracket tightly. So just a side note there. So I like to finish up by hand. Just nice and snug is all you need. I would anticipate somewhere around 50 foot-pounds of torque. I don't know if there's a torque spec on it or not, but just nice and snug is all you need. Okay. And now we'll snug these up. This lower one is a little tight to get to, so a ratchet wrench is definitely helpful here. So you don't have to take the wrench off and keep repositioning it over and over again. So you get about 1 or 2 clicks worth of swing on the wrench. Okay. Sure our hydro lockout's working. I'm going to clean this pulley really good with some degreaser, as well as all these pulleys, because I don't know if you remember, but the old belt had a lot of oil from the previous hydro on it. So we're going to make sure that all these pulleys get nice and clean. Okay, at the very beginning, we took the nut off the bottom right here for the actual control arm. You can also get to it from right here if you want. You can go ahead and put this arm back on if it's lined up to the keyway. I'll do it from up top here. Okay, nice and snug there. Now we got these pulleys to clean up, the fan to put back on. I'm gonna go ahead and wash this really good. Okay, that's much better, all nice and clean now. Okay, I'm going to take a little brake cleaner or carburetor cleaner just to blast these pulleys off. Just get any of that oil from the previous belt. And also this idler. Reinstall that. Kind of need to put the bolt halfway in like that to slide it down to fit it in. And then when you get all the way to the bottom, just push the bolt through. So that's where we're working right here. Okay. Make sure that idle is nice and smooth, nice and tight. No weird noises. Same with this one. Now we can go ahead and put the spring back on here and the belt. And here's the new belt. The old one was full of oil from the old hydro. Here's your Walker part number, 7248. All right, I'm going to finish up by putting this last spring back on over here and attaching that belt. And then we're going to go ahead and close it up. I'm not going to put our new zip ties back in yet because, like I said, the next video is going to be on replacing this GHS blower, so there's no sense. But I am going to put one bolt back on here just so this front cover doesn't end up moving forward and hitting this fan, because I want to start up and try out the new hydro to make sure that it fully functions. There we go. Okay. All right, and we're back in business. All connected. We're going to disengage the hydro lockouts. And let's go ahead and start it up and see how it goes. We might need to do some adjusting. Works great. We do need a little bit of adjustment. As you can see, when the levers are all the way back in the neutral position, it's slightly moving forward. The way you adjust that is by these two nuts right here for the left and right sides. It's pretty simple to figure out if you look at the direction in which way it pulls. So right now it's moving forward a little bit, which is indicating that we're going to need to, we're going to need to tighten these nuts a little bit to go towards the back, or we could loosen them for it to go more forward. So they're actually both creeping equally. So we're actually going to, we want the handles basically to pull back a little bit naturally, which means we want to tighten this nut. So all that is a 1/2 inch wrench, and a little bit goes a long way here. I'm going to give them a little half turn for starters, and then we'll adjust from there. About a 1/2 turn there, a 1/2 turn there. I'm going to go ahead and play with them while it's running. All right, and that's good enough for now. Once you get it going, you get all your pressures up properly on your tires, because that makes a difference, and then you're going to want to make sure that it tracks straight. So I usually adjust it about the medium speed going forward, and if it pulls to one side, you go ahead and adjust the side. So it's kind of a little bit of playing going back and forth between the left and right side there, but that's all you need is a 1/2-inch wrench, and you can reach these when the deck's on. You can make these adjustments at any time when you're running. And there's also a stop right here, which is the point at where this stops its forward motion. Similar to this, but opposite, just kind of like an idle. You shouldn't have to mess with that. If you run out of range, that's another adjustment that you can make to actually pull back both handles equally. All set. All right, that's it for this repair. Hope this helped you guys. Have a good one.